Hey folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, we are talking about another prestige edition from Goodman Games. This is the Isle of Dread. Those of us who played through the Expert box, the first original Expert box set, which was about that thick, will remember this pretty darn well. This was the adventure that went with it, and I gotta tell you, it's the one that opened up the world a little bit. More on that in just a moment. So, like the previous edition, the first part of this book is a few letters, a few essays on what the module, what making it meant to them, and finally, not one, but two printings of the original Isle of Dread. Yeah. Because apparently when they printed it for a second time, they made a few changes, which made some of the rooms that you couldn't ever get to, and it was weird. So you only have that, though, for 90 pages. The first 90 pages of this book are that. The rest of it is the 5th edition conversion to the Isle of Dread. So, unlike the previous book we reviewed, which is Into the Borderlands, they actually add a section here to make it more interesting, with the idea that was introduced in the Dungeon Master's Guide that the Isle of Dread is actually trapped somewhere on the elemental plane of water. So they bring in ideas, they bring in adventures, and some pretty potent magical artifacts that allow you to escape this demi-plane of doom. Sorry, that was Ravenloft. Strahd's gonna come get me. You can escape this island and get back to the real world. It's a pretty solid exploration adventure. It honestly has more role-playing opportunities than you would think, because you run into natives, you run into several new races, you run into a race that is definitely not mind flayers. All in all, I consider it to be a better conversion than Into the Borderlands, if for nothing else then they put in a little work and kind of expanded it out. Now, one of the things that I absolutely have to tell you is awesome about this is where the original Expert Edition, Expert Guide, and Isle of Dread is where we first got introduced to the known world setting. And if words like Karameikos, Glantry, Theatis, the Emirates of Yarlum, the Five Shires, the Black Iron Barony, Darokin, ring bells for you and really warm your heart, then this is probably a pretty good book for you to get. I remember many a long, hot Ohio summer afternoon where I would just lay someplace and read about these places that didn't exist, that I could imagine fully and I wanted to go to. So this really tugged at my heartstrings a lot more. Are there any disadvantages to running this? Well, if you've got a bunch of new players who've never run through this before, or who don't have the old copies of this sitting on their shelves at home, then this is a great adventure for you. It's wilderness, it's exploration, you have to keep up with things like food and water. It's really, really good for that purpose. If you've got a bunch of older players that you don't entirely trust, hi Josh, not to dig out the original module and go through it, then this might not be the best choice for you. I find it superior to B1, I find it superior to Into the Borderlands. I've heard the next one they're doing is the Saga of the Desert Nomads. I think I'm done buying into this line after this book, because even though I've never played the Saga of the Desert Lords modules, I feel like it's not necessary. You know, you get to a certain age where you don't have an unlimited amount of money to spend on books, anything not college, and you just sort of come to the realization that, maybe I don't need this. What can I say? I'm getting old. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.